Okay, this morning's webinar was really about how can I give you something tangible you could use every day that would make a profound difference to your performance. Not just in business, but also in your personal life too. So, what I'm about to go through again is based on good, solid science and will transform your day. So, hang in. You're going to love this. I thought I would start with a quote from Jim Rohn because I think Jim's just an extraordinary guy. And although he's not scientific, he was a wise person in his own right. And he said, happiness is not something you postpone for the future, it's something you design for the present. And really, what we're going to do this morning is focus on something that falls into the bracket of daily, weekly, and monthly action. Um, One of the things that's always concerned me about a lot of coaching and mentoring that I've seen is people um, set goals at some point in the future, but if you don't physically change what you do each and every day, then actually nothing changes overall. And that's been my personal experience, and my experience with coaching and mentoring people. So what they do is I'll have this goal, I'll aim to do this, I'll um, achieve X by 2014 or whatever, and it never ever happens. And the reason why is because unless you start changing the small things you do each day, those bigger things, the bigger goals, the bigger achievements never come. And that is a flaw really of a lot of mentoring and coaching that I've seen. So the question I had is, what resource is finite? Now, I actually talked to a bunch of vets recently, about 2 weeks ago, and this was a small part of the content that those wonderful people were receiving. And I said, well, what resource is finite? And everybody said time, which is that word that you can see at the bottom of the screen. Well, that's kind of partly true. And the other element that's finite and is of equal importance is energy. Energy. And that's what I want to talk about this morning, because the problem is that we try and operate a little like this line here. So as time goes on, during a day, during a week, during a month, during a year, we just put in more and more energy, more and more effort. And our world right now is designed like that. The reason why people are burning out and suffering from anxiety and burnout and depression and so on and so forth is because of the relentless nature of a modern world. So most people watching this morning, I guarantee, cleared their inbox of 20 or 30 emails or 100 emails. And it's just relentless. It just never ever stops. And so we just keep putting in more and more time. Now, the problem with that is that our hunter gatherer physiology actually hasn't caught up with our modern lifestyle. So our hunter gatherer physiology was based around, putting effort in, and then, chilling out and putting effort in and so on and so forth. This ebb and flow. We don't do that anymore. And what I'm about to share with you is so incredibly important and so powerful. And I'll explain why I'm sharing this with you. One of the things that has been a constant niggle for me is I get my blood tested every quarter, give or take, every 3 months or so. And the live blood analysis really just tells me what's happening at a cellular level in my body. So, I need to adjust my supplements, zinc and vitamin B and so on and so forth, a whole range of supplements, but it's very specific to how my body's traveling. Now, here's the thing. One thing that's been a perennial problem, even though I meditate, even though I exercise, is that my cortisol levels were high. And for most people, the explanation for that, because I would pretty much guarantee that most people I know, their cortisol levels, unknowing to them, will be high too, is because we just keep working hard all the way through the day. So this graph is a great sort of explanation of how we should work, yet how we don't work. And this work, by the way, comes from a guy called Dr. Jim Loehr. And when you look at this red line, during our day, we are working hard, working hard, working hard, and then we should have a break. And then we work hard, work hard, work hard, and then we should have a break. This is our comfort zone. This is an area of challenge. That's when we're really pushing our boundaries. The problem is that what we tend to do is we work hard, we work hard, we work hard, we continue to work hard, we continue to work hard, and then at the end of the day, we collapse in a heap, have a glass of wine, and fall in front of the TV. Neither of those things, by the way, I agree with. But the problem with that is that what happens in your brain, because your brain is no different to any other muscle in your body, is your brain starts getting tired. And as soon as it starts getting tired, your brain starts producing cortisol. Okay. And cortisol is it fires off the adrenal glands. And so you start running on adrenaline. Now, that's a phrase all of us have heard a lot. I start running on adrenaline. And the problem with that is that as our cortisol levels start to increase, a high level of cortisol becomes our norm to the point that we don't even realize it's happening. Alrighty, we don't even realize it's happening. And this is when it gets dangerous, because when you're stressed constantly, even unconsciously, it starts having a profound negative effect, not only on your thinking, not only on your creativity, your ability to cope with stress, but it has a profound impact on you physiologically. Alrighty, so eventually it'll lead to things like heart disease, increased risk of cancer, and God only knows what. Now, why is this so important? Well, what Jim Loehr did is, for months, he looked at the top 1% of tennis pros, the guys and the ladies who win the championships. And what Jim wanted to work out is, why are they the ones who keep winning when the other 99% of very good tennis players don't? And after lots and lots of research, much to his astonishment, what he found out was it wasn't in their training regime. It wasn't in how many miles they ran every day. It wasn't in their nutrition, and it wasn't in the amount of practice around their strokes and their line work and all of that, because pretty much it was the same across the board. The only difference, it turned out, was consciously or unconsciously. After that top 1% player played a stroke, what they did from that moment to the moment they walked to the baseline again to get ready for the next tennis game, that few seconds they actually rested, often unconsciously. So they slowed their breathing down, they said something positive to themselves, they dropped and relaxed their shoulders, and so on and so forth. They were taking these micro rests. And at the bottom of this red line, you'll see the word recovery. It was called strategic recovery, and it astonished him that that was the only difference between the top 1% and the rest. This is really, really important. Your brain needs rest, by the way, not just your body. So you would never go to the gym for 8 hours a day. Right? You need to rest, otherwise the body starts to break down. Similarly, your brain needs the same thing. Now, the other thing I want to say about this graph is we have the wrong idea about stress. So if you want to build a fit body, you have to put your body under stress. That builds good muscles, builds stronger joints, and so on and so forth. So challenge is important to all of us, believe it or not. But what none of us do is we don't recover. What we do every day is just keep ourselves up at this area of challenge. We're always on, always doing things, and so on. So we have the wrong idea about stress. Stress is actually very important to us. It grows brain cells. It ensures that we're constantly growing, both physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's important. Challenge is important. But because we don't recover, this becomes burnout over time. We just stay above this red line for days, weeks, months, and in my case, nearly 12 years. So hopefully everyone's starting to wake up a little bit. Interesting stuff this morning, huh? Now, Here are some pretty typical barriers that I see to people's success, and they all stem from the same issue, and that's burning energy continuously so that nothing's left in the tank. Alrighty, and what I want you to do is just simply tick the box of the one that speaks true to you. So low energy, that was definitely a biggie for me. I would always say I was tired. Impatient, another biggie. Negative thinker, lack of passion, right? So if you're not fully passionate about what you do, part of the reason, believe it or not, is not because you're not clear about your purpose, although that may be true. It's because you're actually knackered. Poor listening skills, relationships that lack depth, poor time management, indecisive, lack of follow through. All right, so if you're not a completer finisher, and low self esteem. Believe it or not, all of these barriers to success can be linked back. I accept there are other issues going on, but all of them also have a sort of a starting point around low energy, about burning the energy and exhausting yourself and so on. So that's the challenge that we all face. The question is, how do we overcome that? Well, first thing I wanted to talk about, and again is from Jim Lowe and Tony Schwartz's book, is this idea of rituals versus self-discipline. Now, a ritual is something that we do without any effort required. There's like no energy or effort required. So think about when you brush your teeth in the morning. I assume everybody does. You never know. The truth of the matter is when you get up in the morning and you brush your teeth, you don't actually think about it. You don't have to say, right, this morning I shall pick up the toothbrush and I shall brush my teeth. It just happens automatically. It's become part of your ritual. You put the kettle on probably without thinking about it. You put the coffee pot on without thinking. These are all little rituals, and we have them. When you dry yourself after the shower, I guarantee you dry yourself in a certain way, and that certain way is something that's literally become habit. Okay, it's become habit. So the key to really powerful habits is start with a ritual. Okay, it has to be a ritual. Now, what's self-discipline? This is a funny image. My brother used to have a German Shepherd. He's a police officer in the UK, and he was in the dog section. And I can pretty much guarantee his dog would have had that cat, no problem at all, because it wasn't so great around the self-discipline. Now, here's the thing. Self-discipline requires effort. It requires effort, and the thing about that is the research that's been done is people are able to apply self-discipline once very well, twice reasonably well, 3 times not so well, 4 times not very well at all, and it declines from there. So because it takes energy, it is difficult to maintain. So if you've ever tried to lose weight, you've ever tried to exercise, you've ever tried to make sales calls and find you're not doing them, a lot of the reasons for that is because your habits aren't established. So you're using self-discipline, and self-discipline is a zero-sum game. Now, in the tennis world, there was a guy called Ivan Lendl. Now, I remember him. He was around at the same time as John McEnroe and guys like that. And John McEnroe always said, I was naturally a better tennis player than Ivan Lendl, but he won more games. And the reason he won more games is he had these rituals both on and off the court. This is important. So on the court, there would be certain things. He would bounce the ball 3 times. He would tap his racket against his shoes. He would say something to himself, and then he'd serve, right? Drives everybody nuts, but that was his ritual. Off the court, he would have rituals around his exercise regime. He would have rituals around his recovery, okay? His recovery. And because of those rituals, there was no effort required. They just happened. So how do you actually get rituals going? Well, one of the biggest things I can share with you is that if you try and change too many things quickly, then you're going to come unstuck. There is a book called The Power of Habit. And what the scientists have found is when you change just one core habit, what happens over time is all your other habits start to change. So let's say for you, your effectiveness at work would be massively improved by doing a little bit of exercise. To ensure your ritual started to happen, you would put your dancing shoes or your tennis shoes next to your bed. So you literally rolled out of bed, they were already there, you were already going. All right. So there's no big hoo ha, you just fall into your shoes, into your clothes, and off you go. Right. So you don't try and change everything else. Okay, you try and ensure that there is one simple ritual, and I'm going to give you now some rituals that are going to profoundly change your performance, profoundly change your energy levels at the end of the day, so that you've got more energy for your family, more energy during the day for work, and profoundly change your outcomes in your business, right? So my success rate on sales calls and stuff like that starts to shoot up because I follow these rituals. So first thing every day, never open your inbox. So one of your habits or rituals, which is a negative one, is opening your inbox and getting consumed by the day to day. Instead, work on some kind of longer range priority. What is it that you must do? So maybe there's some sales calls you have to make that morning. Maybe there's a marketing piece that you have to get changed. Alrighty. So you ensure that you never open your inbox, because immediately when you do that, you're just going to be dragged and pushed and pulled by the day-to-day stuff. Instead, you actually do something different. Work on something that is actually a priority, like selling or marketing. Alrighty, next. Now this is really easy to do, and to make this a ritual, make it simple. And this, by the way, is a non-negotiable. Put it in your diary so that you get a reminder every 90 to 120 minutes to take a break. All right. Now, this is about strategic rest during the day. Your brain needs glucose and oxygen. And it's really important that in those breaks, you switch off completely. So if your cortisol levels begin to rise and stay artificially high, stress builds in your system, and then resting becomes more challenging, the day becomes more challenging, problems become bigger than what they actually are, thinking through issues is more difficult, dealing with to and fro of the day becomes more challenging. And that's all because the amygdala, which is where the oldest part of the brain, where the flight or fight response is based, starts overtaking the hippocampus. And this triggers things over time like generalized anxiety, where you're constantly worried about stuff but can't quite put your finger on what the heck you're worrying about. It's because your amygdala is starting to beat the hippocampus in the balance in your brain. So this is important for every single person on this workshop today. Every 90 to 120 minutes, you must take a break. Walk away from your desk. And the reason I said you need to switch off completely and juggle balls, the moment you start juggling balls is the moment you start using a very different part of your brain than you had been using in your business. And that helps switch the brain off and give it a strategic rest. As part of that break, eat a healthy snack. All right. So you then start eating about 5 times a day. Now, why is this important? Well, it turns out that for about 100,000 years, this is how we ate. And it was only with the Industrial Revolution that we would have breakfast in the morning, have a small lunch break, jam something in our mouth at lunch, and then dinner in the evening once we came home from work. That's not how our bodies are designed. So if you want to lose a little bit of weight, ironically, you eat 5 times a day, not 3, and you eat smaller meals more often, more regularly. The reason this is important is that when you combine this healthy snacks with your 15-minute break and drinking more water, what you're doing is you're ensuring that your brain is resting and recovering. And as a consequence of that, you don't end up creating the kind of problems that I've personally ended up creating for myself because of this incessant attitude towards work. So you need to drink more water, about 1.89 liters per day. And as he says, I'm just going to take a quick sip now. So you can all take a sip of water too. Now that can easily be put in your diary. All right, so it becomes effortless. You don't have to think about it. Just put it in your diary every day. And you can do these diary entries where they are auto reminders every single day. Every 90 minutes in your diary, a reminder will pop up saying, take a break now, eat a healthy snack, drink some water. You don't even have to think about it. Let the machine do it for you, and you literally just see that. You get up from your desk, off you go, juggle some balls, eat a healthy snack, some fruit, some nuts, that kind of thing, and make sure you got plenty of water. Um, for me personally, when I just started doing this, I found when I was playing with Zoe, my daughter, at 5, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, I had the same amount of energy I had in the morning. Uh, and I also found that I'm much more positive, much happier. My ability to sell increased, and it's pretty good as it is. So all of these things were because I started treating my brain with a bit more respect. And in the financial world, traders who've used strategic breaks actually are better traders, make better decisions, are more profitable, and so on and so forth. So another thing I would say is you need 7 to 8 hours sleep per day. Less than that, or even more than that, believe it or not, has long-term and short-term negative health consequences. So stop watching TV. Okay, I mean, by all means watch TV, but what I'm saying is don't watch TV from 7 in the evening till 10 o'clock and then try and get to sleep. Watch an hour of your favorite show. Then what I would suggest is grab a book that will help you sort of drift off to sleep. So don't buy a horror fiction or something like that that'll keep you awake. But reading and stuff, and little things like that, reading, a little bit of meditation, so on, that will actually help you drift off to sleep really well. So they're the kind of non-negotiables, and it's not big. I mean, this is easy peasy stuff. Just put something in your diary that reminds you to have a break every 90 to 120 minutes, reminds you to have a snack while you're in that break, and drink some water. And oh, by the way, get more sleep. This is really important, okay? One of the biggest issues in our modern society that contributes to poor performance is that people are getting 5, 6 hours sleep, and it kills you literally over time. Alrighty, now this is something that I've said to you before, but I'm going to keep banging on about it because, quite frankly, I'm not sure people are listening. But pick one of these. So you know how I said earlier, the importance of changing just one habit. All right, so taking a break is not a big deal, right? That's easy. You can just have that in your diary. But changing one of these habits is a bigger deal. So you pick one of these for the next 30 days and don't add another one of these practices until this one has become a ritual. So this is what I call focusing on one cornerstone positive habit only for a minimum of 30 days. And then move to the next. So the book, again, is called The Power of Habit, and the author is Charles Duhigg. And so there's a lot of research behind this. If you wonder why you maybe have failed in changing in the past, I pretty much guarantee it's because you were doing too much, trying to change too many things. So you changed your diet and you started exercising, and you were, spending more time with your kids, and you are doing more in your business. It's just, you can't do that. Just start exercising. Don't worry about the diet. All right, that can come once exercise becomes a ritual. So funny we should mention exercise, but have a physical practice. Now, when I say physical practice, one of the things that John Ratey found, and this is John and his incredible book Spark, was that exercise increases brain cell manufacturing in the hippocampus. So if you want to have a brainier brain, then a chemical called brain-derived neurotrophic factor and two specific proteins are created when you exercise that increase cell growth, increase the strength of cells, and increase the chemicals that relay signals through the synapses. So they increase the conductivity in your brain, speed your brain up, So this is kind of remarkable stuff. If you want to be a better, smarter business person, get out and do some aerobic exercise. Now, here's the thing. What's really important to understand is it actually doesn't matter what physical practice you have. It doesn't matter whether it's running, whether it is, I don't know, martial arts, whether it's dancing. So long as your heart rate goes above 80%, it will have a profound effect on your brain. And the sort of the synopsis of this all is that moving regulates and improves brain chemistry, and that comes from Research Journal of Physiology. And what they said is that we used to move 5 miles a day, and that kept us optimally topped up. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen anymore. So if you want to start really profoundly changing how things are going, and after this workshop, I'm having a little workout with my neighbor Jamie, a bit of CrossFit training, then start here. Just make this a ritual, whatever it happens to be. Okay, just make this a ritual. And this is James Blumenthal, who did the incredible Dr. James Blumenthal, who did a study back in 2000 of severely depressed people. Now, these are people who are close to suicide. He gave one group Zoloft, another group Zoloft, which is an antidepressant, and exercise, and then the last group just a bit of exercise. Please do some exercise. What came from the study is the amount of people who relapsed into severe depression was as follows. For the guys who had just taken Zoloft, 39% relapsed into severe depression. For those taking Zoloft and doing exercise, it was 32%. But for those who just did exercise 30 minutes a day, 3 to 4 times a week, it was less than 9%. What is that telling us? It's telling us that if we want to work optimally, if we want to be happier, if we want to be better at business, if we want to be more creative, we want to be more resilient, exercise is not simply about getting your body fit. It's about getting your mind fit. It's getting your brain healthy. So please take this seriously. Now, I have talked about meditation before, and particularly about Jon Kabat-Zinn. John says something really beautiful. He calls us human doings rather than beings. There's not enough beingness, just simply being still. We're just doing all of the time. And he describes meditation, which really all meditation is the art or the ability to just rest the mind, to switch the mind off from this constant whirring motion. He describes it as an act of sanity. And what they found is with meditation, your left prefrontal cortex is activated. Matthew Ricard, who's a Buddhist monk, he has a very active left prefrontal cortex, and he's described as the happiest man in the world, which irritates him. And the paradox of that is quite funny. But the reason this is important is your happiness center is the prefrontal cortex, the left side. The right side, when that's very active, that's associated with people with severe depression. So, or anxiety disorder and so on and so forth. You are able to change your brain, and meditation can actually build more structures, greater cellular activity, stronger synapses, new synapses in the left frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex, and as a consequence of that, increase your overall happiness. So some of the benefits of meditation are better memory, better stress response, greater creativity. It changes us physiologically. They found, Harvard Medical School did a study of meditators and found they had more disease-fighting genes produced. There's an increase in serotonin levels and hormones that repair damaged cells. The list goes on and on. So if you think this is important to you, then what I'd suggest is find a simple guided meditation. If you go onto YouTube and put in John's name, so it's Jon Kabat, Kabatt-Zinn, Kabat-Zinn. Actually, I think it's single T and double N. Kabat, Kabat, and then Zinn. Jon Kabat-Zinn guided meditation, and you'll listen to a 20-minute guided meditation that'll help you switch your mind off. Okay, very, very simple. This express gratitude work comes from Sonja Lyubomirsky's book, The How of Happiness, but is actually based on the research of two guys called Emmons and McCullough. Um, and basically, what expressing gratitude means is simply acknowledging the great things in your life every day. There's different ways to do that. Gratitude journal works very well. Paths of gratitude, counting your blessings in your own way, maybe contemplate in the evening or every week. Expressing gratitude directly to another person. Acting in the moment, expressing gratitude is really beautiful, and try different ways to do that. Now, here's the thing. Why is this important? The reason it's important is that expressing gratitude, what Emmons and McCullough have found is that people who do this regularly are happier. And the reason they're happier, and again, it's to do with neuroplasticity and how the brain changes, is the brain starts to learn to look for positives every day. And this is important. It starts to learn to see positives. And that means that your overall energy level, positivity increases, and that has a sort of compounding effect. Now, the other reason it's important is it thwarts what's known as hedonistic adaptation. So when people have, say, buy a new house, and then 2 months later they start talking about getting the next house or getting an extension. What gratitude does is it helps you enjoy those physical external things for longer. One of the reasons why we're so unhappy is we get a new smartphone, we love it, it's great, it's fantastic, and then 6 weeks later, it's just another phone. And then we go off and we have to earn more money to buy the next new phone, and so on and so forth. And that treadmill continues. And I see it even with extremely wealthy people. They've got the house, they've got the pool, they've got the car, got it all sorted. And then give them about 12 months, they're looking at the next house and the next pool and the next car. And the way to stop that is through gratitude. And you're just happier. You're happier with what you have. You're happier with your life. You're happier with your business. You're more likely to be more positive in your business. And that has a profound effect on your staff, on your customers, on the people you're selling to, and so on and so forth. So all of this could easily be put into your diary. This is an example of my diary. It doesn't actually look like this, but I meditate in the morning, do exercise. Those rituals now aren't even in my diary anymore. They don't need to be. They just happen. I take a break every 90 minutes. So that's not in, this is an older version of my diary. You could do this every day. All right. Now, one of the things I would suggest is the non-negotiables would take a break, eat something healthy in that break, and drink some water and get a bit of sleep, right? That's easy. That's non-negotiable. You can put that in your diary, and that'll just run. For the other three practices, choose only one of them. So maybe you exercise for 30 days and you think, hold on, I haven't really got it down as a ritual. I still, I need to sort of get it to the point where it's automatic. Now, there is a point that I got to after about 60 days where if I didn't exercise, I really missed it. And that's a good tipping point. Okay, I can feel a difference. I'm a bit flatter. I'm not as sort of energetic. I'm not as sharp. So that's when you know you've got that ritual nailed. And then you can move on to, say, meditation. All of them, I think, are important, but you just do one at a time. And you should end up eventually with a little accountability log that you keep at the end of the day. And this ensures that you are able to keep track of where you're at, not to beat yourself up, but so if you started your day adjusting to your overlaps, maybe you're clear on your values, which is a whole other conversation, but adjusting to your overlaps, what does I need to do in the future? What are my medium-term projects and all of that kind of stuff? These are the important things. How did I rank myself? Scale of 1 to 5, 5 excellent, 1 not so good. How did I do? Break every 90 minutes of work. Okay, I give myself a 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. and maybe you're working Monday through to Friday, not Saturday, but you know where I'm coming from. Eat healthy 5 times a day. Yeah, I give myself a 4, 5, a 5, 5. Usually on a Friday, I'll give myself like a 2 or a 3 because I eat really well during the week. But you know, every now and then I'll have a pie. You know, what the heck? Life's too short. And then you've got your exercise and meditation, and that just helps you keep track of where you're at. So that the following week, if you didn't have a good week, you don't beat yourself up. Because if you beat yourself up, it starts negative thinking, you start coming apart at the seams. Instead, you just say, you know what? I need to work on this. Now, for me, spending time with loved ones, that's really important. How did I rank? Now, last week I didn't rank too well because I was out. I had meetings. I was in Sydney. I was up in Brisbane. You know, I was out a lot. And so, you know, I didn't have as much time with the family as I would like. That's going to happen. So you just say, okay, it was a 2 and a 3. So next week, I'm in and around the office a lot next week. So I'll make more of an effort. This weekend, we're going to do lots of stuff together. And it just helps you ensure you've got the balance right. The one thing that all of us as entrepreneurs struggle with is balance. And this little accountability log just helps you keep some sense of balance in your day. And that's it. It's really powerful and it really, really works because I've been using this now for the last 2 or 3 months. I've done everything I could, I thought, to ensure that I was working at an optimal level. And this cortisol level, slightly raised cortisol level, never went away. And it drove me bananas because I knew that the long term effect of that was damage to my physiology. And it wasn't until I read Jim and Tony's book that I realized that the reason for this high level of cortisol is because I never take breaks. So start in the morning, take a 20-30 minute break at lunchtime and go through till 4 o'clock and then hang out with the family. But what I didn't realize is that our bodies have rhythms. Those rhythms we all understand happen at night where we go sort of into sort of dream sleep. It's called REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, and then we go to deep sleep, and then we come out of that, and then we go back into deep sleep and come out. That's a rhythm. It turns out those rhythms continue all the way through the day. So part of the reason we all get tired at 3 o'clock is because those rhythms are continuing all the way through the day, and we need to listen to them. They've been around for 100,000 plus years. I mean, when we start working to them, our lives change, our energy levels change, our ability to be better business people change. You know, how we affect and work with other people changes. So there you go. Really powerful stuff today. If you have any questions, type them in very quickly now, and I shall answer them. You can just type them into the chat box. That would be very cool. Otherwise, I will call it a day. It's very, very simple stuff. Very, very powerful. I'll just give that a couple of minutes. Everyone's very quiet this morning. Okie dokie. I am going to call it quits. I think it's pretty straightforward stuff. I don't think there's sort of any, you know, deeping meaningful in this particular workshop today. It's about real practical stuff that you can do every day. So all I'd ask you to do, breaks every 90 to 120 minutes, where you eat healthy and drink water, try and get more sleep, and then pick one of the rituals for 30 days to really work on: exercise, meditation, gratitude, whatever works for you. So on that very positive note, I wish you well. Have an awesome month. Luke will be back with you next month. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Drop me a line. So we will see you soon. God bless and take care.